All right, you guys, I did it again. Last time I showed you a video about like what my basics are when I do order, and I gave this long big spiel about how I don't really order anything for myself anymore besides the basics. But yeah, so with that being said, I failed to mention that I do order a certain something when it comes out, and that is Distress Oxides, the new color. Whenever there's a new one, I have to get it. I always get it in the Distress Oxide, as well as a couple other products, but I don't get the whole line. So I thought I would share that with you today. And something else that I always get is, dun dun dun, I love the gloss sprays. So I wasn't entirely, I wasn't trying to be honest. I was honest. But there are certain things that I am very loyal to and I enjoy a lot. And I'll tell you why in this video. But first, let me show you kind of what I got. So amongst the Distress Oxide line, I always get the Distress line, I should say. I always get the Distress Oxide in the new one. I also always get the Distress Oxide spray, as well as the Embossing Glaze. These are the three that I always get whenever there's a new color. I will end up getting the Distress ink, and if you followed me for some time, you know that I actually prefer the Distress ink over the Distress Oxide. However, my real estate up in my craft room is like Manhattan. There's not much left, and it's extremely valuable, and I wait until the Distress Oxides are all released in packs of minis. We should almost be there. I think the last time I got a mini was after the release of, gosh, was it the flamingo color? Anyway, every 4 releases they release a Distress ink mini, and that is what I will get for this. So love this. I love the Distress Oxide sprays. They're so much fun. And then of course you can do really cool stuff with the Embossing Glaze, like some resist. I do have everything on my channel if you want to see more of those. So in addition to that, I also saw that Dina Wakley had some new gloss sprays out. These are fantastic. I absolutely love them. The reason why I love them is because they go on and dry more like a spray paint than an actual mist or spray like you're used to. There are balls in the bottom, which I'm sure that you can hear. So before you use them, you always want to give them just a really, really nice shake. Then once you spray them, you want to go ahead and clean off the nozzle because it will dry and it will clog it for later use. I've made that mistake a couple times. But what's so cool about these is with mists and sprays in general, you have to be really careful about your color families or else you end up with mud. These dry like a spray paint. So it's like an acrylic. It's like plastic when it's dry. So you can spray on one color, hit it with your heat it tool for a couple seconds, that's dry, hit it with another color, and it's not even going to blend. You're not going to get any kind of weird, you know, muddy color blends. It's going to stay, and I'll show you that in a moment. The other thing that I saw that I also enjoy from them are the liquid pearls. This is a new color out. Well, maybe not. It's called Petunia. I will have a link provided down below to the Ranger store so you can grab all this, and then some direct links on where you can find all this yumminess that I grabbed. I just thought it matched really nicely with the this potion, this beautiful purple. I also don't think I have a purple liquid pearls. Nope, I sure don't. I just looked back and saw that. So yeah, I guess I don't just get. Then I had to get a few things that looked really cool. This new layering stencil, you can make 3 different moons I absolutely love a good sunset, a good skyline. I know that this looks like this would be perfect for Halloween, which it would, but I actually am going to use it for other seasons as well. But they come with these layering, and I cannot wait to play with these in 3 different sizes. So I thought it was a really great value if you just want a circle for something and you know, you want to keep it white. You could even just use, you know, the circle layer. So there's lots of fun on that one. And then last but not least, I did go ahead and pick up this Hexagon large stencil from Dylusions. I have been eyeing this stencil for some time. I have a Hexagon little gel pressed petite that I thought would be great with this. And so I went ahead and finally made that purchase since I had all of this fun stuff. So I wanted to share. Let me get into these gloss sprays and I'll show you how you can actually use these with a technique. And let's also dive in and see what this new beautiful color looks like. Let's dive right into this lovely new color. I am so excited about this one. I'm just gonna take and just kind of run it across and just see, like, that's so pretty. Now, that is what that is. It's so gorgeous. And then you can just take some water and hit it, and that'll actually help to oxide it and move and stuff. And it leaves like a chalky finish. But look how just how cool that effect is. That is so nice. All right, so now from here, another way that you can do this is obviously that dip way, in which you take this down and you just push it in, and then you hit it with some water, and then you just take and dip it through. This is a wonderful way when you're using more than one. And the cool thing with your Distress Oxides is once they are set with heat, they will not move anymore. And so it will actually stop moving for you. So you can layer on different colors from different color families. And if you know, purple is a super hard color to work with, because anything other than red or blue wants to make mud. So let's play a little bit with this, and I'm going to do some dipping right now with this color and then some other ones from the line, and let's just see how well it holds up and does not make mud. This will only work with the oxides. This will not work with your Distress ink, because Distress ink always moves when you get it wet. So Distress Oxides, though, on the other hand, do not. However, you know what? I think I'm going to do that technique, though, with the Distress Oxide spray. Should be the same thing. Again, the oxides will not move once you do get them, heat set them. But I'm going to do it this one simply because it's a little bit faster than doing it with this one. But we'll come back to this at the end, and I want to do something with this as well. So this is the Villainous Potion. I'm just going to take a piece of white flat cardstock. This is, I believe this is Simon Early's. And let's just spray this out, and let's just like see what we get. Now the sprays are really great for when you want to cover a lot of area relatively quickly. So for this one, I'm just going to do in that corner so that I can go pull in some other colors that are not red and blue. Those are the only ones purple traditionally will play nice with. So I'm going to pull in some that I know would actually turn this brown, just to see if it truly does stay it's you know, gorgeous purple. This is a really pretty purple. And if you don't like that chalky look, because once you hit this with, even with just like some water, Yeah, that's not even moving much. It's still a little bit wet down there. That's why it reacted somewhat. But yeah, so I don't like the chalky look personally. I'm going to show you how you can play with this and then take that chalky look and get back more of your luster. There's something that I use over my pieces that is great. It also works for sealing in your distress ink. If you find a placement that you want and then you want to like stamp on top of it, you can use this and it will actually seal it, make it waterproof, and at that point you can play on top of it. So it's a really great product to have in your arsenal. It's one of my very favorites. So let's go ahead and just layer some more Distress Oxides on top of this one. Again, this is that new color that just came out. I pulled two colors that I know do not like purple, just to see how this works. The Crackling Campfire and Mustard Seed. So I'm actually going to lay this one down, the mustard seed, over here on this corner, like so. I'm even going to take and hit it with a little bit of water, just to see. And nope, it pretty much holds. It's holding the line there. You can definitely see where that purple and yellow meet, but it's staying true. Like, I don't see any brown whatsoever. So that's super cool. So no brown, still pretty. I gotta tell you, if this was a water soluble type medium, you would definitely get some not so fun mixings. Now, for the sake of time, I am just cleaning up my Distress Oxide spray, but you could totally make a background out of that and dip. But for this purposes, I'm not doing that. I'm just cleaning it up. But there's stuff you could do, like you could take and like dip it over, and I'm probably gonna go back through with my potion and do that at the end. Okay, so this is Crackling Campfire, and let's just see here what this does. Now, I know that it would blend nicely with my mustard seed. That won't even be a problem, but it does not normally like purple. Okay, ooh, I love what that looks like right there. And then I'm just gonna go and just even hit that with some more water just to get it oxidized. And what I mean by you can dip it is you can just take and just dip like that and pick up more color all over the place. And that is coming together so cool. But if I were to try to layer the purple on right now on top of this, it would move because it's not dry. It would blend, and so I would end up with brown. So you don't want to do that. You really want to just make sure that you get it dry before adding your next color if it's not part of the same color family. And what I mean by color family, if you're not familiar, is warm tones. Think of fire. So those are your reds, your yellows, your oranges, your pink. Those will all blend beautifully together. So think about things that are hot, a sunset, okay? Your cool tones, which are water colors, so think of things by the ocean or in the sea. So blue, anything blue, green will work with that turquoise. Colors like that, those all blend beautifully together. Those are always, always, always safe bets. Purple is the one color that contains the primary of both color families. Therefore, it does not work well with the secondary of any of them. So I'm going to go back through and do a light spray of this new one out. Yeah, it's still holding true. That's so cool. It's not even blending out at all. It's really holding true. Again, and I can even take that and just, you know, pick up some more. Yep, I'm not getting any kind of mud at all. It's looking pretty good. So let me go ahead and hit this one more time. And if you ever, like, this to me is getting borderline ugly just because I don't really care for purple. I mean, for like that deep red, and this isn't my color preference, but for something that's like Halloween-y, this is like really good. So I'm actually gonna go over it this time with mustard seed one more time, making sure that I am getting this nice and dry, because I don't want it to blend through, right? Create something that's not so great. So I'm just getting this all nice and dry. It still is pretty pliable in my hand, so I know that it's not dry yet. So you want to flip it and get the back side as well as the front, just because whenever your substrate gets wet on top, it seeps through to the back. So just like that wetness can seep to the back, it can also seep back to the front. So you need to make sure that you try to get everything dry on both sides. Okay, that's pretty good. Now I'm gonna go in again with That's So Pretty. Now, I can actually go ahead and layer on some of this crackling because it's the same color family as the mustard seed, and I'm really liking how that looks. And I can add a little bit of water to get it to oxidize somewhat. There we go. That looks so cool. And then I can just go and just like flip it up and pull in some spots, just like you would do with your ink again, or your ink pads. The benefit of using a spray is that it can create a large background. Like when you have a large piece of paper or a journal, you can do it super quick with the spray versus trying to ink blend it out with your ink pad. That is really cool. So I'm just going to take and clean up my mat here real quick. And then I want to just hit this with my heat gun. And then I'm going to show you what you can do to bring the luster back to it if you don't like this chalky look. Some people really like this chalky look. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but some people really, really like it. But I'm going to show you how to do that on that little purple sheet that I originally did my sample on. I'm going to do half of it with that, and then the other half I'll leave it the same. And I'm going to do it on that instead of on this, simply because it's the same color, it's more consistent, and you'll really be able to see what I'm talking about in the difference versus if I try to do half of this with the product and not, because this isn't like, this entire sheet is totally different all over, whereas this is more consistently the same. So the product that I'm talking about is Distress Micro Glaze. And again, this works on sealing your distress inks as well. Once you get it perfectly placed, and let's say that you want to add a sentiment on top of it, or you want to do some more stamping, you can put this on as I'm going to do it in a minute. It applies the same for both of these. For both the Distress Oxide and the Distress ink, you apply it the same, and you'll get that waterproofness with the Distress ink. It also waterproofed this, but this is already pretty much waterproofed. And then, or it won't move with water, I should say. And then with your Distress Oxide, it just brings back the luster. Now, it has been perfectly designed to use with one of these little tips. However, I just use my finger because I find the tips to take a lot of product, and that gets expensive to have to replace it. You only need a little bit. You do want to make sure that your hands are clean. The reason why it was created with this is because people will, you know, put dirty fingers into it, and then that will cause bacteria to grow. And so they wanted to come up with a way, I'm sure, of being able to apply it without having the bacteria growth. But if you wash your hands, my hands are I'm going to go wash them off screen and then I'll come back and do this. That is okay. I've never had bacteria growth in this before, and this is like 2 years old. So it lasts forever when you just use it sparingly with your finger, but you have to have clean hands. All right, so I just washed my hands and I'm just gonna take a little bit on my finger and I'm gonna go down just half of it so that you'll really be able to see the difference. Now with this, you don't wanna just leave it on by rubbing it. And as you can tell, it's totally set. It's not rubbing off at all on my finger. So you don't want to just leave it on. You actually are going to want to wipe it off. And so that's where I'm going to use this. I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to wipe it off until it's nice and dry. And it is. And it doesn't feel slick or anything. But look at the difference in that. This side has the luster back, that chalkiness is all gone, and this still has that chalkiness. So I didn't really use Distress Oxides much when they came out because when they got wet, I just did not like what they look like. But once I discovered the Distress Micro Glaze, it was a game changer for me, and the possibilities now with the Distress Oxides are endless. So let's move on and let's just take a look and see what this new Embossing Glaze looks like. And I will show you some cool stuff that you can do with this as well. So Embossing Glaze is unique in the sense that it's not opaque. You're going to be able to see whatever is under it through it. So I just want to see right now what this color looks like, and I'll show you what I mean about how you can see other colors through it. It will tint it obviously a different color, and then I'll show you a resist technique that you can use with it. So I'm just going to take this Distress Embossing Dabber and I smeared some of that on here. This does not stay wet forever. Maybe depending on where you are, 5 to 10 minutes. I'm in the desert, probably would end up drying a little bit quicker just because I'm in a dry environment. And then I'm just going to take this, cover it pretty good. All right, this is just for demonstration purposes alone. That's what that looks like. Now, you don't have to toss that if you're not familiar with how embossing powder works. You simply pour it back into the container for your next use. I like to take a soft bristle brush and just brush down my tidy tray because it will allow me to get all of that glaze or most of it back in here. Plus, the next time I use my tidy tray, it's nice and clean. I don't have to worry about it contaminating or getting something else, another color in there. Now for this, you don't want to use a heated tool. You actually want to use an embossing tool because the heated tool would take forever. This gets really hot and it has just a direct heat. So the nozzle makes it just heat up a lot faster, and you kind of want to heat it up off to the side first. It takes a minute to get hot, and then once it gets hot, you can put it on your project, and then it will emboss. And you'll know that it's embossed when it turns shiny. That's how we know. And it turns to like a plastic. So you can actually do some resist techniques with this really, really nicely. I'll show you in a minute what I'm talking about, how it resists other ink and things like that. You want to be careful. I'm actually doing this on my silicone mat. I do want to be careful with that because it could end up causing heat damage. So make sure that if you do it on a surface, it is heat resistant. But I'm going pretty quick. I should be okay here. And then let me just rotate this over, because you will burn yourself. That's why I set it down. It's pretty hot. All right, and we're almost done here with this. Just go over it a little bit. There's some up here that needs to be done. Some down here. And it does need to cool because it is melting right now, right? All right. There we go. I'm going to let that cool for a minute, but take a look at what it looks like between the two. And again, this is my side that I added my micro glaze to, and this is my side that I did not. So pretty good match there. Beautiful purple color, isn't it? All right, so as that cools, let me just show you how you can actually apply this. I'm gonna just apply it on here. So I'm just gonna take and just go like that, and I just added a little bit of the dabber again. Any kind of embossing powder would work. And then I'm just gonna take this and go ahead and, I didn't even apply much pressure on it, as you can tell, because it's more in some areas and less in others, and that's because of how I applied the dabber. So I just want to go ahead and again, I'm going to heat emboss this. So since this is such a dark color, you definitely cannot necessarily see through it as much as you can on some of the lighter ones. However, if you take a look, the purples on this one looks much darker than this one, and that's because you can see that background color through it, which makes it darker. And even up here, it looks even darker than that. Like in real life, I'm sitting here looking at this, and this looks almost like a brownish red, whereas this one looks like a super dark purple. So embossing glazes are a lot of fun if you want to have an embossed image or pattern, but you still want your background to shine through and play with that color. So I want to show you what you can do with this. This can actually be a resist type thing in which you layer on some ink and it will resist it. So it's pretty cool. So I'm just going to grab right here. Let's just do my flamingo, and I'm just going to color all over it. And as you can tell, it totally is resisting that. So, if you want to be lazy with your coloring, this is a great way to do that. You can stamp an image, you can emboss it with your embossing glaze, and then you can just color it in or color over, and it will resist. So I'm just gonna move that around with a little bit of water, and then I'm just going to take, look at that, look how pretty that is. Then I'm just going to wipe the excess off of the top, and now I have this. So you can use your embossing glazes again as a resist. So before we get into the gloss sprays, I wanted to share with you what this Petunia color looks like. I love liquid pearls because it is a great way just to add your own embellishments. Now I haven't used this and that popped a little bit, but you can just do, some dollops if you want it to be bigger. You can definitely make it bigger like that. And if you want it just to be tiny, you can do really small ones. The sky is the limit with this. If you do have those peaks, all you have to do is just take the paper and tap it, and the peaks will eventually go away. They'll fall into the rest of the liquid pearls, and then you'll just be left with really pretty pearls. And that takes, depending on where you are, between an hour or two to dry. Probably take me about 45 minutes because I'm in the desert. So it depends on how much moisture you have in the air, how humid it is, and if it's raining or sunny outside, things like that. Depends on how long things dry. So that is that really pretty new liquid pearl color, and I really do think that it matches nicely with the new Distress Oxide color. All right, now we're going to get into the gloss sprays. So these are fun. I love them. You want to make sure that you give them a really, really nice shake before spraying them, because they're like a spray paint almost. You have to make sure you get everything mixed up, because certain components of it do tend to settle in the bottom. So we're going to create a really fun background. I'm going to show you what I mean about how they don't blend together. And they stay, once they dry, they're kind of shiny, which is super cool. And then I'm going to show you how you can actually use these as a resist as well. So I'm just going to put on this first color. I'm just going to kind of go in threes here. So I'm going to do the syrup first. Let's see that. And if you do, you can make it like big little blobs like that, or you can make it finer. So if you spray real fast, you'll get more of a fine. And if you spray less fast, you'll get more of the blob. But before you layer on the other colors, you do want this to set up a little bit. Make sure that you hit it with a heat tool, and it will do some pretty cool stuff even as it dries. It does some really neat stuff. So I'm just going to hit this with this, and then I just want to take and make sure that I get this up, because it is like a spray paint. It is like an acrylic, so definitely want to get that up. So this one was syrup, and now I'm going to hit the next one with sage. And see how it doesn't, it stays pretty true. It doesn't doesn't mix at all. And the more you layer on, the more it kind of does some cool stuff within it itself. And you definitely want to use this in a well-ventilated area. I can definitely smell it. So if that bothers you, open up a window, have a fan on, something like that. So I'm just going to hit this like so. And then I'm going to take my Orchid and do that color next. Now these are new to me colors. I don't know how new they are to the line. I'm pretty good about staying up on it, but I just went back to teaching full-time, and so I haven't been able to stay as up to it as possible. So this is Orchid. Let's see what this one is. Ooh, look at that. That's gorgeous. And again, so now I actually want to make sure that I clean these nozzles really well, because they will dry and then I won't be able to use them. And that would be super unfortunate. So as you can tell, it is starting to set up. Does really nice on its own here. Drying, you don't want to use water with this. It's not a water type medium. I've never used water with it. I suppose you could try it and tell me what happens, but I've never used water with it because I think it's more acrylic-y. So anyway, look how cool that is. And then what you can do is once it dries, let's just go back and just throw some more color with each of these with some big drops on, and just see what we get. And then I'll show you the technique that you can use using these gloss sprays to create backgrounds and resist. So this is, there we go. So, and it dries kind of shiny, as you can tell, really pretty. So let's just go through, and I'm just gonna add a little, I'm gonna do just a little bit here and there, and then I'm gonna put some sage on. I'm really being cautious with how much pressure I'm putting on. And then let me go ahead, and I want to put some of that more. See how I'm just like splatting it, and it's blending and things like that on its own. The syrup and the sage is actually blending in the spots that they hit each other for a really pretty color, I'm noticing. So it does like to play within itself. Now I'm going to add the Orchid. This might be a little bit risky because it is a purple, and I do have, purple is like a really hard color to blend, so I may get some mud. Let's just see here what happens. Just want to see. So pretty cool there. All right, I'm going to actually, oh, I like, okay, ooh, I love what that is doing with that sage right there. Look at that. It's like you can see inside little dollops of the orchid, but the sage is still staying true. So this is not blending. It's staying pretty true to its colors, and it gives a really fun type graffiti, spray painty type background. I love this. So fun. All right, so let me clean this up, and then I'm going to show you how you can use this as a resist. All right, I'm going to really play on the edge here. I'm going to use Distress Oxide with some in Lemonade, Salty Ocean, Twisted Citron, and then also the new potion color. These should not blend nicely together, but since they're Distress Oxides, we're going to play. And I'm also going to use my glossy spray Orchid, Sage, and maple syrup on this one. So for this particular technique, what you can do is you want to apply your gloss spray. I'm actually going to take this out. I'm going to shake it up, make sure I shake it up. Also, I forgot to clean the tops of these, so I really need to make sure that I get those nozzles clean, or else I will not be able to use them, and that would be unfortunate because I've had that happen before. Then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take these out of the nozzles out, and I'm going to splat them. All right, so let's go for it. Make sure you give them a good shake also. So I'm just splatting this on for a splatter type background. I'm not going to dry between, because if it blends, I think I'm okay with that. They tended to do some pretty fun stuff when they were blending before. So I think I'm okay if they blend. But look, there's like, just let it get some really good drops in there. And then I'm going to go ahead with my Orchid and add some splatters in with this one. So I'm just tapping, just splatting like so. It's fun just to let it drop. And of course, no background that you do is ever going to be the same with this type of technique. I'm trying to go around the edges and really get a nice coverage there. Okay, so I feel like I got a good amount of Orchid down. I want to go back in with my sage and do the same thing. So I'm just going back and forth. I want there to be pretty decent coverage, like up there and right there, like so. And some of this is like drying right now, because obviously the smaller the medium, the smaller amount on is going to dry faster. And then let me grab, see, that's playing nice, the syrup again, and get this one splattered on too. Like so. And you could really, you know, splat this out, like have a lot of splatters on here, or you could not. It really is up to you. I'm just adding in some different little dots. So I'm going to clean up my background because I don't want it to dry on my mat. I cleaned up my mat and this is pretty much dry. So now we're going to use this as a resist. So I'm going to pull in some colors and do the traditional, or the way that probably most of us saw Distress Oxide first modeled for us, which is the dip and the smudge and dip. So I'm first going to do these two colors because I do know that they play well together. And since I'm going to be using them wet, it is important that I pick colors that will mix nicely. And these do mix nicely because yellow goes into green. And I actually can throw in some of this salty ocean too on this because, you know, yellow and green make, yellow and blue make green. So I think I'm good. Then I'm just going to hit this with some water like so. And then I'm just going to go ahead and start to pull that on through in some spots like that. And then make sure that I dry it between each smoosh session, right? Like so, getting that all nice and dry. I kind of like what I got going on here still, so I'm gonna just push it in there like that, and then also up there like that. I think I'm done with this now. It's starting to just mix and stuff. And then what you can do is you can wipe it away, and the gloss spray will actually resist the ink, which is really, really fun. So now I want to go in with the new color and lay that out in some areas. And it looks like I'm just going to try to hit the edges. So I'm just going to smoosh out some of that, hit it with some water, and then we're just going to go through and hit those areas that maybe don't have much color on them, like so. There we go. Voila. Take that up, and I'm going to hit it one more time. I think the next time I'm going to hit it with some Twisted Citron, and I can just take and even make it react more by adding some water and picking up the excess like so. Hitting it with my heat gun just to get it to set up so it won't blend with my next color. But it's so fun because that distress, the sprays work as a resist, so you can create your background on top of it, which is so cool. All right, so I'm gonna go in now with, I think, just some Twisted Citron, and then I think I'm also gonna go in with some squeezed lemonade. And I'm gonna hit this one more time, make sure it's nice and dry. Hit this with some water, get it to move around some, and then I'm just going to go over in some spots, or, you know, all together right there. And there we go. Now I have created a really fun background that resisted and stayed true to the color, and I was able to mix, you know, the Distress Oxides in, and just, there you go. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this little video about my unboxing, and also a couple different ways that you can use the new must-haves that I found. If you are interested in anything that I used, I do have the direct link to Ranger provided for your convenience down below. I also will find as many of these items as I can and list them separately. By shopping my links, it helps me keep bringing you free content here on YouTube. I do make a small commission, in which clearly I put right back into the channel. This was not sponsored at all. So it was sponsored by you guys that shop my links and watch my videos. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions or comments, you just let me know down below, and I'll do my best to find the answers for you. Until next time, I am Bets Golden. Happy crafting.